Schiff Radio continues right now.
We're talking with U.S. Senator Rand Paul. You know, another U.S. Senator, Marco Rubio, who's seen as maybe a future or leader, standard bearer in the Republican Party, had a speech earlier in the week in which it was very reminiscent of George Bush, compassionate conservatism, as if free market capitalism by its very nature lacks compassion. I didn't like that speech or the sentiment that he expressed. What's your opinion?
You know, I didn't see the speech, but I do think that it is important to remind people that capitalism is the most humanitarian economic system, ever developed, because capitalism develops so much wealth that we can give and help those who are less fortunate, both in our country and around the world. But if you look at a country like Cuba, socialism doesn't produce any wealth, so you don't see Cuba able to, or Cuban citizens able to have the wealth to help people. All the wealth we have, the Bill Gates and all of those others, have done wonderful things with their private wealth. Carnegie did great things with his private wealth. So I think it is worth extolling that and extolling that, capitalism is the system that can provide the most and greatest humanitarianism.
But it's frustrating to see leaders of the Republican Party basically selling out and trying to be more Democrat-light. I also wanted to ask you, I mentioned it before the break, why does the president only want to get the rich through marginal tax rates, which will hurt economic growth? How about asking them to take less in terms of Social Security and Medicare? Why can't we cut the rich's benefits instead of raising their taxes?
I've been telling the president this. I've told it to him directly. I've told it to every Democrat I come in contact with, that if you want the rich to pay more, let's give them less in benefits and let's have them pay more for their benefits. So raise their Medicare premiums, raise their Medicare deductibles, give them less Social Security, and those are all ways that we ought to be able to find. That should be part of what the compromise is.
But why won't he do it? Why won't the president take away Warren Buffett's Medicare?
He's just sticking his, they've stuck their head in the sand on entitlements. Harry Reid says he's not touching them. So's Dick Durbin. They're not going to touch entitlements. The president said yesterday he doesn't have enough time. But here's the problem. We always we lurch from one deadline to the next, but in between the deadlines, nobody's doing a damn thing. There's no committee up here to reform Social Security, no committee action on Medicare, no committee action on tax reform. But when a deadline comes up, they say, we don't have enough time, throw their hands up, but we just have to raise some taxes, but we're not going to do tax reform, we're not going to do entitlement reform. So it's an abdication of their duty. None of them, they don't pass budgets. They really ought to turn their paychecks back in, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Boehner and the purge going on in the Republican Party?
Well, we had a couple of congressmen who stood up and said, you know what, the Paul Ryan budget doesn't balance for 28 years, and so for voting against the Republican establishment budget, they were purged. These same congressmen also voted for the 5-year balanced budget that the conservatives put out. So basically, if you believe in the balanced budget amendment, which says we balance in 5 years, you're purged. If you believe, we'll slow down the rate of growth any over 28 years when many congressmen won't even be living, then you're purged. I don't know. I guess it shows the true colors of people. I don't know, if any of these people want to run for president, maybe they're going to have to explain why they wanted to purge people from their committees who believe in balancing the budget.
Well, Rand, thanks for coming on. I understand you've got to run, so I appreciate the time that you spent with us, and I appreciate your courage in the U.S. Senate. Unfortunately, you're going to lose one of your comrade in arms. Hopefully, his appointment is committed to the same principles that you and Jim DeMint have been fighting for in the Senate. Hopefully, we get more people like you and Jim DeMint in the Senate, and a lot less people, unfortunately, that are expressing the Mark Rubio sentiment.